Hello and good day to all. For this presentation, we will be presenting on our chosen country, Indonesia. Prepared for our lecturer, Sir Wan Muhammad Faiz bin Wan Ibrahim. This presentation is brought to you by Muhammad Daniel Shahmi bin Muhammad Noor, Nur Fakira binti Muhammad Yusof, Nur Atika binti Suhaili, Muhammad Ashraf bin Zaidi, and lastly, Efa Ezana binti Osman.
First of all, my name is Atika binti Saili and I will be presenting on introduction of our project. First of all, I will tell about macroeconomy. Macroeconomy is from the Greek prefix macro, which means large, plus the economics. It is a branch of economy dealing with the performance, structure, behavior, and decision making of a company as a whole. For example, use interest rates, tax, and government spending to regulate an economy growth and stability. Other than that, macroeconomy also looks at the economy from a broader perspective by considering its overall performance and the way the various sectors of the economy related to one another. It also study of the aggregate economic activity. Okay, next I will talk about the currency of our project country that we choose, which is Indonesia. First of all, for the information of currency in Indonesia is Indonesian rupiah. It currency ranking show that the most popular Indonesian rupiah exchange in rate is the IDR to USD rate. The currency code for Indonesian is rupiah, which is IDR, and the currency symbol is RP. In order to change the Indonesian rupiah to USD is 1 Indonesian rupiah equals to 0.000071 United States dollars, which is this we can see that Indonesian rupiah have a small amount of money uh, other than the other country in the Asia. The currency of Indonesian placed at 43 in the whole ASEAN. So we can see that Indonesian rupiah is one of the most small amount others than Malaysia. Okay, next I will talk about the largest company or business that uh, from Indonesian. First of all, the Indonesia largest company by the market capitalization is HM Sampurna. It is the country largest tobacco company. Uh, the company has the HM Sampurna has been the top company in Indonesia since March 2013. Um, Okay, I will tell you about the largest company in Indonesian by their ranking. First, it is HM Sampurna, which in Indonesian trillion IDR trillion is 293.66 rupiah. Uh, Next is Astra International in IDR trillion is 257.07. Third is Unilever, which is 251.79. Fourth is Bank Central Asia, which is 2 241.62. The next one is Telkom, which is 221.76. The next one is BRI, which is 198.59. Next is Bank Mandiri, 184.33. Perusahaan Gas Negara, 130.90. Cement Indonesia, 86.01, and lastly Gudang Garam, which is 76.19. All of these is the company that contribute more in Indonesian. They also the largest company in Indonesia. Uh, the massive spread of COVID-19 caused a decline in economic activity, and this pandemic has been infected in various sectors in Indonesia, such as household consumption, investment, and financial institution in Indonesia. Um, Other than Indonesia, other countries also have been affected by this coronavirus. But this is a threat of loss of community income, because in Indonesia they cannot work to fulfill their daily household, and the informal sector. Other than that, the business also cannot be conduct, um, because the business activity has been also affected by this pandemic. Other than that, the corporate sector has also been disrupted, especially in manufacturing, trades and transportation. The disruption will reduce business performance, so that it causes the termination of employment and even bankruptcy. Um, Lastly, if financial institutions also have been potential to experience liquidity problem, because it's causing a depreciation of Indonesian currency, the volatility in financial market and capital flights. That's all from me. Thank you. Next, my friend Fakira will representing on summary.
Hi, my name is Fakira. Today I'm going to present on the summary of macroeconomy issue. It can be viewed from two different perspectives, which are conventional perspective and Islamic perspective. Let's start with conventional perspective. Firstly is to achieve full employment. Full employment refers to the level of employment rate where there is no existence of cyclical or involuntary unemployment. It doesn't mean that there is no unemployed or jobless people in the economy. Moreover, if more resources are employed, more output can be produced, as the higher output produced can translate into an improved economic growth. Secondly is to achieve price stability. Inflation or increase in the general price level is a challenge to every nation. To the consumers, inflation direct influence their purchasing power. Quantity of goods and purchase service will be decreased if the inflation rate is high. Thus, it's crucial to maintain price stability to avoid uncertainty and disruptions in the economy. Next, to achieve economic growth. Economic growth is an expansion in national output over a given period of time. A higher economic growth rate can be achieved when more output is produced. However, an economy will not always counter an upward trend over time, as economies tend to experience short-term ups and downs. Is their performance called business cycle. Therefore, to achieve economic growth, government should encourage investment, increase government spending. The fourth one is equitable income distribution. It is necessary to ensure that economic growth of nation is shared equally among the population. The gap between the higher income and the lower income of group should be narrowed. Thus, taxes are imposed to reduce the income gap between the lower and the higher income group in order for them to control inequality. Higher income group will pay more taxes than the lower income group. This method will help to achieve equitable income distributions. Last but not least is favorable balance of payment. A country will try to get an overall surplus balance of payment (BOP) that indicates greater inflow than outflow of money. If a country faces a BOP deficit, it means that the country will have to borrow from other countries and it will lead to high debt problems, whereas BOP surplus will lead to inflation. Thus, it's important for a country to understand and determine the favorable scale of their BOP, which is the balance of payment. So next, I will explain briefly on the Islamic perspective. First and foremost is social justice. Social justice aims to achieve spiritual salvation to human happiness. It's based on the principle that all existence in the universe belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Secondly, equitable distribution of income. Islam insists on a powerful built-in income redistribution mechanism. Nevertheless, some income inequality is allowed since it promotes individual initiatives. The third one is universal education. In an Islamic economy, government must be subsidized or provide free education to ensure the education is available to all regardless of one's financial standing and possession of properties. In addition, optimal rate of economic growth. Growth in an Islamic economy is comprehensive and includes the moral, spiritual, and material aspects of man's life. In terms of capital formation, human and material capital are included. Lastly, maximization of employment generation. An Islamic economy must ensure that economic growth results in maximum contribution to the creation of employment opportunities. The objective is not to attain full employment at the cost of economy efficiency. That is all from me. Thank you. The next presenter will be Eva Ezana.
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Eva Ezana binti Osman. I'm from HM114B. So today I will present about unemployment that occurs in some countries. Let's go. So here's the example of effect of employment on family. One is that a household will experience poverty and hardship, which is severe. An individual does not have the money to spend on the necessity and wants of life. They will not enjoy a luxury and comfortable life because they do not have a job and no salary to look forward to. It also will make family relationship tense, and this will lead to severe depression. Besides that, unemployment will also disrupt health and will lead for worse, for example such as depression. There have been a number of suicides that have occurred as a result of stress due to lack of employment and housing stress. Unemployment can also jeopardize children's development and future employment. Unemployment has caused for society that are more than financial diverse. Unemployment individuals not only need extra income but also their physical and mental health problems. So as we know, at this day and age, there is an increasing need for money for lifetime and for needs and wants. The extremely high cost of living will put pressure on unemployed individual. In addition, there are many immigrants from Indonesia who seek and work in Malaysia as maids, laborer, and so on, and the money they earn will be brought to Indonesia to support their family. So in this case, government cost exceeds the payment of lost benefits, lost production and consumer workers, reduction of gross domestic product. A country's economic needs assets to help grow the country's economy, and the unemployment rate can be reduced. This can help a person find a source of income for a relative bright life. So we proceed to next presenter, which is Shahmi. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and hello, my name is Muhammad Daniel and I will be presenting on the inflation rate. Inflation can be defined as a continuous rise in the general price level of goods and services in the economy. Basically, it means that a piece of money today can buy less things than it used to be. There are two types of inflation, which is demand pull inflation and cost push inflation. Demand pull happens if the aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply when it reaches full employment level. In other words, it is caused by the rises in aggregate demand. Meanwhile, as for cost push inflation, it is caused by the continuous rises in cost of production or rises in profit. As we move over time, inflation can give a really big impact to our cost of living. Many parties will be affected by it, such as ordinary citizens and businesses. The healthy number for inflation in countries around the world is around 2% to 3%. Inflation rate in Indonesia in June 2020 is at 1.96, but it decreased to 1.54 in a month later. In August, the rate is at 1.32. It increased gradually to 1.68 in December 2020. Entering 2021, the rate decreased back to its lowest of 1.37 in March. As of May, the inflation rate jumped to 1.68. There are a few causes of why inflation happened. The first cause is rising wages or salary. This thing occurs because of the growing economy in the country, with more people willing to spend their money on necessities or luxuries, which resulted in the higher demand for goods. This led to suppliers increasing the price of goods and also created a much more job opportunity. Next cause is expansion of money supply. It happened when the National Bank printed more money at a pace where the growth of economy could not catch up. With the citizens that held that much money, the demand will grow and leads to increase in price of goods. Other than that, government regulations can also affect the inflation rate. When a government decided to increase their taxes for companies, either for producing or importing, they have no choice but to increase the price of goods. In this case, it will burden the buyers at first as they have to spend more on something. The next cause is when the country is in a huge debt. The government has to either increase their taxes to pay for their debt, or they have to print more money. The last cause is when the exchange rate changes over time. For example, when a ringgit drops much lower than usual, its purchasing power will also decrease. The bad side is, imported products will be more expensive to buy. For Indonesia, inflation happened there because low spending by the citizens. As the pandemic hits the world, Indonesia is also facing hard times. Businesses, producers, importers and others had to stop operating for a while to take extra safety measures. Many workers had to be dismissed to keep big companies standing. For small companies, many of them had to shut down their business as they cannot keep up to pay for the rents, taxes and also the workers' pay. This leads to people with no money to spend on daily grocery things such as foods. In August 2020, it was estimated that about 3.7 million Indonesians lose their job due to the pandemic. The problem that Indonesians are facing is increasing prices for necessities. It was reported back in March 2020, the average prices for raw food, which is garlic, increased by 56.4% and sugar price at 5.4%. Another food price affected is bird's eye chili, red chili and also red onions. However, these commodities did not show that much increase in price compared to sugar and garlic. The highest inflation happened to healthcare at 2.02%, price of gold and education at 0.57%. Meanwhile, it was recorded in August 2020, steepest deflation in terms of food, beverages and also tobacco products at 0.86%. Following these obstacles Indonesians are facing, the government led by President Joko Widodo has allocated an amount of 695 trillion rupiah for their stimulus package in June 2020. The budget was allocated to healthcare, social protection, tax incentives and credit business, SMEs, SOE and corporation, and lastly the support for ministries and regional administration. For the banking and financial sector, Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises and also informal workers get to postpone of credit and leasing payments for loan up to 10 billion rupiah. SME and non-SME get to postpone for credit and leasing payments without ceiling limits. This has to be in accordance with the ability of the debtors to pay and the agreement made with banks. Lastly, I would recommend the Indonesian government to impose much higher taxes to the rich. It would not burden them as much as opposed to their arguments. Instead, it will make the economy better. Meanwhile, the ordinary citizens' tax should be reduced to lighten their burden as they did not have big income unlike the rich. Lastly, more infrastructures such as highways should be built in order to provide more jobs to the local as it helps the economy blooms. In addition to that, big cities such as Jakarta will experience less traffic jam. This will make the city much more productive. That will be all from me. Next, Muhammad Ashraf will continue to conclude this presentation.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Ashraf and I will conclude the topic microeconomic for our selected country, which is Indonesia. The economy of a country has been studied and analyzed by experts, and both of the factors which are inflation and unemployment, are part of it. There are many other factors that affect the economy of a country, especially Indonesia. So in the explanation that my friend mentioned before, the things mentioned in the inflation section are rising wages, expansion of supply money, government regulation, country in huge debt, and exchange. For rising wages, an increase in purchasing power in line with an increase in income. This causes the demand for sources of essential goods to be high and price to have to be increased. For the expansion of supply money, when a lot of money is printed, the value of the currency will fall. This is because the price of good is not only determined by one country but the world market by all the countries. An increase in currency will lead to an increase in demand. Okay. Next, government regulation. In short, taxes increase in import and export dealing affect inflation in the economy. This causes the price of goods to rise and purchasing power will decrease. Next, the huge debt and exchange. A lot of debt causes the country to need a lot of money to pay it off, and one of the ways is by raising taxes. For currency exchange, high inflation drops its value and a country's currency comparison gap become high. This has happened to Indonesia, causing the gap between the value of the currency with the value of other countries' currency will be high. The employment rate has also affected the country's economy. Unemployment can contribute to the increase of the poor families in the country. The state has to spend a lot of money to channel it so that the people can survive. The country's economy development will be stunted and affected due to the large disbursement of funds for this group. At present, the employment rate has increased due to COVID-19 pandemic that has hit the world. Indonesia has the same problem as other countries. The country's economy is deteriorating and a solution needs to be taken as soon as possible. In the future, Indonesia has certainly planned the best strategy to improve its economy so that the problem of inflation and unemployment will be reduced. Indonesia, in an effort to become a developing and developed country like other countries that have monopolized the world market, it is hoped that Indonesia will continue the develop and become a country with a strong economy in the future. I think that's all from us. Thank you.
That will be concluding our presentation for this topic. Thank you.